Hi everybody. Today, in honor of the 11/11 portal, I wanted to jump on here and really get clear for myself on what I've been thinking about so much with regard to feeling in tune with the universe, thinking about manifestation, spirituality, and my personal practices. And this is something that has helped me so much in my personal life, and I want to come on here and talk about like kind of the links between manifestation and psychology, and talk about how like all these different practices are all just talking about the same thing, and I never really understood it. I mean, I'm a very faith-based person, really, so I'm interested in faith as practice. I'm interested in just like, you know, the concept of performativity is that we are constituted by what we do in repetition, which is kind of like Geertz's idea of the rehearsal, right? Like, to borrow from performance studies. And I feel like that concept is so like reflected in the idea of like what a practice is, right? Developing an active practice of blank. And so for me, like, faith and spirituality, manifestation can be one way, one articulation, I guess, of that idea. But really today I want to talk about two specific things with regard to manifestation, and how manifestation has links to other types of practices, belief systems, science, right? And I think clarifying this is really important, because drawing these syntheses, right, and synthesizing these networks can really help us. So the first one that I want to talk about is about, and I just had this breakthrough like recently. Manifestation is a way to call in the things that you are hoping to experience, the things that you are hoping to have, right? But the way it works isn't as silly as, like, at least this is where I'm at right now. It's not something where you necessarily do something like, hey universe, I want a Porsche, like whatever. Like, it's actually deeper than that. It's like crazy. It's like, I felt so blocked for such a long time. I couldn't imagine a different life for myself. I couldn't imagine how I could get out of a certain hole. I had dug myself into certain social holes, like a little world, right? I couldn't imagine how I could ever have a friend who didn't follow certain norms that I was no longer aligning with. I couldn't imagine so many things. And I'll probably talk about this and reference this a million times in the future, but one of my friends, Jennifer, gave me the best definition of mental health that I've ever heard in my life. And her definition of mental health is having the imagination for a future. Manifestation is a practice that calls on us to imagine. And in that sense, I really value it, because I don't think we have a lot of room in our current culture to imagine, right? And I keep thinking about like how one of my friends hosts like these radical imagination sessions for housing rights and for like ways to imagine our world, and she borrows from, was it Theater of the Oppressed. And I just feel like imagination, right? I mean, it's not like some woo thing, or it's not like some stupid thing. Like, I mean, for me, and I talked about this in my previous video, but I come from like a design background, a product design background, where we are constantly challenged and told to kind of imagine and think out of the box, and to turn that onto one's own life, to turn that onto the injustice that we see in the world, to craft a theory of change. Like, that's what it's all about, right? And manifestation isn't like, let me manifest, at least from my perspective, right? It's not I'm not getting into like the witchery and the brujeria like type of stuff. Like, it's not necessarily like, oh my god, like let me manifest that XYZ will be president. But I keep thinking about this so much lately. Like, how can we like adjust our internal state towards justice? How can we adjust our internal state towards, I don't know, like I keep thinking about like CBT for like social justice. Like ways we can adapt our mental state. For example, how can we move from a state of fear to a state of security internally so that we may be more generous with others? How can we unlock, and that's something that like traditionally, right, in CBT, in cognitive behavioral therapy, is on the onus of like the patient to seek out therapy, to seek out these resources, when if we want to build a more just world, we need to overcome a lot of emotional blockers. And that's the thing that I think is really missing in a lot of ways, because I'm just like, I realized that like so much of this, it's not just like, oh, like let's go around like spreading love. It's like, this is deep work, right? People are always talking about like, oh, I'm doing the work and stuff. And that doesn't need to be individualized. And so like, I mean, for me, like faith, spirituality, religion is like a collective practice, right? And I'm not necessarily like forcing this down anyone's throat or anything. I'm just saying like there is like a social precedent for doing that in community rather than the precedent for a medical setting, which is to be doing the work on your own to resolve your own traumas and kind of try to show up in a polished way to other people who may be at different points in their journey, but not really bringing people in to these types of journeys because they're considered too individualized. Whereas like I think faith is really a type of inner transformation that encourages pursuit with other people, or at least that's an aspect I'm really drawn to at the moment. So when it comes to like bringing yourself to inner transformation, and then that will supposedly influence your outside world, many people will just be like, how will me doing the work or believing in manifestation result in, you know, like cures to certain injustices? And I don't necessarily think that that's the case. I think, or people will be like, I won't become like rich overnight or something if I like manifest that I make a bunch of money. And while that is a separate branch of manifestation, right, I'm just talking about like how I think one way of manifestation is just changing your fucking mindset, changing the fact that you might think, oh, I'll never get to do XYZ, I'll never get to do this or that, and using manifestation to be like, but I believe there's a future where I get to experience this. I'm going to clarify the goals of my life. I'm going to clarify that I'm really hoping that the universe will show me that there's like a way for me to overcome this. I'm really hoping that, and that will attune you. This is what like all the manifestation people say. They're like, oh, this will attune you to the ways in which the universe is helping you. And I think that's exactly the key, because so many of us are so attuned to the ways in which we have bad luck that we, or like negative aspects, at least this is just for me, but this is my testimony, like, but we're not necessarily attuned to the ways in which like the universe is helping us. And I don't mean that in like an necessarily active way necessarily, but just like luck is luck. It can be good or bad. If we attune ourselves to thinking like, I would love to experience a close friendship in that has these elements of care in it, you're more likely to perceive things, and this is like the psychological aspect, you're more likely to once you like name that, your brain will have confirmation bias trying to seek out ways in which your current reality already confirms that. And so manifestation is simply shifting your world, because your world is completely filtered through your senses. Like, how crazy is that like to change one's perception of the world, one simply might just have to believe in it, right? Like, so many of us are so data driven and logical and you know, like rational, that it's like we are challenging the universe to like overcome our very limited and narrow mindset and being like, well, show me the proof. Where's the money? Where's this friendship? When you're not even looking for it. And it's like, and so like, I don't know, like I know a lot of people already know this. I know that this is just like my personal journey, but this has just helped me so much because I've just never, like, I think I've often been like maybe more of a negative person, right? And I try to like stay optimistic, but it's just very hard because sometimes when you're in that type of mental place, you're just so stuck on, oh my God, like I can't see a path forward for me to get this thing that I want, right? Like if I saw a path, if I could build one for myself, I would be on it, but I don't see one. And like, you just feel so in despair about it. And by changing your, like the way you're, by laying out your goals, that's the first thing in manifestation, is just writing down what you want, right? That's what they all say, like 1111, write down a list of everything you want. When you do that, you clarify to yourself what you're looking for in life, and therefore that is what's going to get filtered more towards you. And then the second aspect of manifestation is raising your vibration, which means act the way you would once you receive it. And that's another way, right? Where you're basically co-creating with your environment, where you are, like, I don't want to say attracting, because it's not that. It's just like, it's all subconscious. It's all like rooted in reality. It's like the things that you're doing are going to continue your confirmation bias of what you're looking for. And that is how success happens. That's how you get what you're looking for. I have had so many just like crazy experiences. I mean, there have been people that I would cry all the time. I was like, I'll never be a part of their circle. I'll never be friends with this person. Will never see me as anything other than so-and-so's girlfriend. I will never, be worthy of their time and attention, right? And this wasn't something where I was like knocking on their door all the time, like trying, right? Like really trying to force the process, but more so getting clear on what am I looking for, like what types of experience, and don't attach it to like a specific person, just more so like, I would love to experience XYZ. And once you do that, it's also like this gratitude practice, like whatever. But I think like it's just made me such a more positive person, like having these practices. Like, I don't know, like at this point I feel like there's so much good to be had from having a personal practice like this that builds up your self-concept, right? Like you do this thing and then that in turn feeds back to who you are. Like that's another reason for me personally that I'm really into gender. Like gender, like the theory of gender performativity is that we co-create our gender with our environment. It's like the things we do every day, the way we present, the way we dress, our mannerisms simultaneously create what gender is, while gender also enforces that upon us. And so our gender is not like something to be separated from us, but it's something that we create through our actions. And that's what like a lot of performance studies can be about, like studying actions, how like actions create a theory that can be like discussed, I guess. And I guess for me, like I keep thinking about like how important it is to actively participate in our own lives and not feel like life is just happening to us. And of course, like one might say that this is just about like regaining control, but we always are in control of like the way we see the world. And by the way, like this is no cure for structural depression. I just think it's a way for us to unlock a different emotional state, and that's like all there is to life, is like our responses to things and our willingness to feel things and our interest in experiencing different feelings. And like, and I feel so blessed with the opportunities that I've had to experience so many different emotions and things, just like following this. So I don't know, like I just feel like that's just what I want to share. This 1111 is, you can take or leave like whatever parts of spirituality, whatever, that doesn't resonate with you. I don't think that I'm really allergic to dogma is what I've been thinking recently. It's like I feel so allergic to dogma. It's not important to me. What's important to me is what helps you, right? What helps you. And I feel like this is something that actively makes me feel so healthy that it's something that I just have to explore and explain and like talk about. So yeah.